Donald Trump's America First policy was widely condemned by the liberal media and much of the international community. So how on earth are they going to deal with America First on speed from the cold and cruel isolationist Joe Biden, who has just thrown the Afghan people under the bus over the past 3 days? Not surprisingly, the media, which has been in the tank for the Democrats since he started running against Trump, is having an existential crisis about how hard to criticise their great leader. They've certainly got a lot of material after his Afghanistan catastrophe. How about the revelation from Richard Holbrooke, the former US special representative to Afghanistan under Barack Obama? His diary showed that when Biden was asked about the obligations the US has to Afghan girls at school, Biden replied, "F that. We don't have to worry about that. We did it in Vietnam. Nixon and Kissinger got away with it." Well, just imagine for a second if that comment had been made by Donald Trump. It would have been leading news bulletins and front pages for days. I bet you probably haven't even heard about it. So no wonder most sensible folk have become truly disillusioned with the sake of the media. And how about Biden's lies? Last night, he said the Afghanistan invasion had never been about nation building. So why did he say this in 2003? The alternative to nation building is chaos. A chaos that churns out bloodthirsty warlords, drug traffickers and terrorists. Well, indeed. Biden attempted to produce the situation as a binary choice between another war or a full withdrawal. But that isn't backed up by the facts either. Alternatives to a full withdrawal were offered. For example, the US Afghanistan Study Group recommended in February that 4,500 US troops could stay to keep the peace and train up the Afghan army and police forces. And perhaps most callously, he turned on the Afghans themselves last night.
The developments of the past week reinforced that ending U.S. military involvement in Afghanistan now was the right decision. American troops cannot and should not be fighting in a war and dying in a war that Afghan forces are not willing to fight for themselves.
How about the 45,000 members of the Afghan army, Mr. Biden, who have been killed in action since 2014, attempting to protect their country from the evil Taliban regime? As Charles Lister from the Middle East Institute put it, "You're pulling wool over people's eyes. The Afghan army has fought valiantly against the Taliban for 20 years at an enormous cost. We decided to undermine their government, pull the rug from under their feet, kill off their air force and tell the Taliban our withdrawal timetable." Biden has a lot to answer for. He ignored warnings from the EU foreign policy chief, Joseph Borrell, that the Taliban would use the US withdrawal to take control of Kabul with catastrophic consequences. The US media now has to prove it can challenge Biden just like it did Donald Trump. But it's already obvious they will struggle to do so. He's back. That's right, folks. After botching virtually every projection throughout this pandemic, Professor Lockdown himself, Neil Ferguson, is again being given a massive platform by the BBC to terrify us all. Why on earth is the Beeb so obsessed with this idiot? It was Ferguson who wrongly told us there would be 100,000 COVID infections a day by now and possibly 200,000 as a result of Freedom Day. We know we're less than a third of that number, with about 30,000 a day. But yesterday, this was Professor Lockdown on the Beeb.
That's a slightly sobering situation to be in coming into September, because our contact rates, as I said, about half of normal levels. And in school holidays, children don't have that many contacts, and we'll be reopening schools. People will be going back to offices in September. So we still have the potential of quite a large wave of infection in September, October. What we can be confident in is vaccination is protecting people against the most severe disease. So it's very unlikely we'll see levels of deaths, for instance, comparable with what we saw this January. The real question is, more important, frankly, than the numbers of cases, is what does that do to NHS demand and admissions to hospitals? And we, in the worst case scenarios, we could be getting probably not up to January levels, but still at levels of well over 1,000 admissions per day potentially, which does stress the health system. And we already have very long backlogs in the health system, so any stress on it is challenging.
Oh, please. The bloke's pulling these figures out of his backside. Ferguson knows no more than you or I about what's going to happen in terms of COVID infections. History has proven that. So the government must ignore him, even if the BBC don't. New Zealand's zero COVID fantasy is quickly turning into a never-ending nightmare. The awful Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has plunged the entire country into a nationwide lockdown because of just one case of COVID-19. Yep, you heard me right. One case of a virus we all know we have to learn to live with has seen all of New Zealand shut down. What's more, she's even halted the COVID vaccination rollout for 48 hours. How does that make any sense? Now, let's compare that panicked and hysterical reaction from Ardern to that of the Queen. There has been one positive COVID case at her summer retreat at Balmoral, but the 95-year-old has decided to keep calm and carry on her holiday. That's true leadership. Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.